Listen closely. Chosen one, what you are experiencing tonight is not a glitch in your routine. It is a sacred appointment written in the stars long before you drew your first breath. My child, stop fighting the restlessness that keeps your eyes open at 3 a.m. while the rest of the world is dreaming. That heavy stirring in your chest isn't a panic attack, and it isn't a sign that you're losing your mind. It is my voice whispering to your spirit, calling you to align with a shift that is already in motion. I am not a God of confusion, but a God of preparation. I am stirring the waters of your soul because the doors ahead of you require a version of you that hasn't been birthed yet. Pay attention to the silence, for in the quiet, I am revealing the covenant of your next season. Stay awake with me, for this night was crafted in heaven specifically for you. And if you turn away now, you might just miss the blueprint for the breakthrough you've been praying for. Think about David. He wasn't just a shepherd boy in the hills of Bethlehem. He was a king in waiting, spending years in the lonely wilderness of the American Midwest or whatever desert you find yourself in today. Maybe you're 34 years old, sitting in a dimly lit studio apartment in the heart of Seattle, watching the rain streak down the glass, feeling like the clock is ticking and you're somehow behind. You've spent the last few months feeling a weird, unexplainable itch in your soul. You've tried to scroll through TikTok to drown it out. You've tried to blame it on too much caffeine or the stress of your 9 to 5, but the feeling persists. It's that internal nudge that says something is coming. This isn't ordinary background noise. In a world that prizes speed and loud, flashy results, we have forgotten that the most profound shifts in human history happened in the dark. Silence in the modern American landscape is often treated as a void to be filled with podcasts, music, or mindless chatter. But tonight, that silence feels loud, doesn't it? It feels heavy, like the atmosphere right before a massive thunderstorm hits the plains of Kansas. That pressure you feel is spiritual weight. It's the weight of a divine transition. Let's look at the facts. You aren't here by accident. The algorithm didn't just happen to show you this. This is heaven's timing, delivered to you because the Lord confides in those who respect the process. Most people spend their lives chasing explanations. They want to know the why, the how, and the when before they take a single step. But the kingdom doesn't work on the currency of explanation. It works on the currency of instruction. Think about the pioneers who crossed the rugged miles of the Oregon Trail. They didn't have a Google Maps satellite view of the entire journey. They had a compass and a call. Sometimes, the Most High doesn't give you a map. He gives you a posture. Right now, heaven is setting things in motion that you cannot see with your physical eyes. While your neighbors are sleeping or scrolling through endless feeds of other people's highlight reels, there is a divine preparation happening in the unseen realm. Some breakthroughs are so massive, so life-altering, that they don't arrive quietly. They need space to land. And if your heart is cluttered with the noise of the world, there's no runway for that breakthrough to touch down. This is why you've been feeling set apart lately. You've noticed that you don't fit in the same rooms you used to enjoy. Conversations that used to satisfy you now feel shallow. Friendships that were once your anchor now feel like they're drifting. This isn't isolation, it's insulation. God is protecting your focus because what comes next is only for the ones whose lamps are burning. Remember Luke 12:35. Be dressed, ready for service, and keep your lamps burning. This isn't a suggestion for someday or next year. It's a mandate for tonight. In the American culture of hustle and grind, we think preparation means working harder, making more LinkedIn connections, or getting another degree. But biblical preparation is about a heart posture. It's about being awake when the Spirit moves. Consider the stories that defined the faith. Gideon didn't feel like a hero when the call came. He was hiding in a wine press in the middle of the night. Samuel didn't expect a voice to call his name while he was trying to sleep in the temple. Ruth didn't realize that stepping onto a quiet threshing floor in the middle of the night was the moment her entire lineage would change. These people weren't looking for a spectacle. They were simply present in the stillness. Tonight is your threshing floor moment. It's a sacred pause. It's a space designed to reset your internal compass, realign your priorities, and refine your character. If you felt a heaviness lately, don't mistake it for rejection. Weight is a sign of worth. You don't put a heavy load on a weak foundation. If the journey has felt 100 pounds heavier this week, it's because the destination is 1,000 times more glorious than you imagined. You are being stretched, but you aren't being broken. You are being readied for what only the prepared can carry. The clarity you're looking for isn't going to come through more thinking. It's going to come through more trusting. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. That's the American struggle, isn't it? We want to understand everything. We want to hack our way to the top. But you can't hack a divine transition. You have to walk through it. So, don't scroll away. Don't let this be another video that passes through your mind like a shadow. There is a reason your spirit is unsettled. There is a reason this night feels different. We are about to uncover why heaven whispered to you tonight and what this specific night is really about. We are going to move past the surface level anxiety and dive into the deep peace that comes when you finally realize that God isn't just watching your life, He is orchestrating it. If something inside you is screaming yes right now, if you know deep down that this isn't just a random video but a direct message from the Creator, I want you to make a declaration. Type Amen in the comments as a bold sign that you are listening, that you are awake, and that you are willing to follow where the Spirit leads. This isn't for the crowd. This is for the one who has been set apart. As we move forward, we are going to explore why this stillness is actually the most active place you can be. We're going to look at why the Most High chooses the night to start the most significant fires in our souls. Because once you understand the purpose of the pause, you'll realize that the silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. And as we transition into the deeper meaning of this preparation, you'll see that the waiting room you think you're in is actually the war room where your victory is being secured. Listen, let's be absolutely clear from the jump. This message isn't here to scare you or stir up a bunch of frantic anxiety. This isn't some doom and gloom warning or a threat wrapped in spiritual-sounding words to make you lose sleep. No, this is an invitation. It is an invitation into alignment, into a higher state of awareness about what is already shifting in the atmosphere around you. You see, when the Most High says be prepared, He isn't pointing you toward a bunker of fear. He is pointing you toward forward motion. Fear is a thief. It overwhelms the senses, clouds the judgment, and paralyzes the feet. But what we are talking about tonight, this is different. This is hope with a strategic direction. This is heaven whispering that you will not walk into your next blindly, because true preparation isn't about bracing yourself for a loss or waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's about stepping into movement with pure, cold water intention. When God prepares His people, it is never random, and it is never cruel. It means something is coming that you were literally built to handle. Think about a massive project in a high-tech hub like Silicon Valley. Before the first line of code is written, there is a period of deep, intense planning. Or think about an athlete training in the quiet suburbs of Colorado Springs. They don't just show up to the Olympics. They spend years in the sacred stillness of the off-season, in that quiet, that stillness. That's where the Spirit does the heavy lifting. We live in a culture that is obsessed with grinding, with hustle, and with visible results. We think if we aren't moving at 100 miles an hour, we're failing. But a pause does not mean nothing is happening. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the very foundation of it. It's the deep breath a sprinter takes before the starting pistol fires. The night seasons of your life, the ones that feel uncertain, stretch thin, and dim, are not detours. They are transitions. They are the bridges between the person you were and the giant you are becoming. Look at the history of the Exodus, but through a fresh lens. The Israelites were told to prepare the night before they left Egypt, not while the Red Sea was already splitting, not after they had seen the victory, but in the dark, before they had taken their first step toward freedom. Why? Because timing is the master key in heaven's design. In the heart of America, we pride ourselves on being self-made, on having everything figured out. But readiness is a different kind of currency. It's how faith responds when the GPS hasn't loaded the next turn yet. Proverbs 22:3 tells us that the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Preparation isn't worry, it's wisdom. It's the difference between a controlled burn and a wildfire. And when God speaks to you before a shift, it is always, always out of a place of radical love. My sheep hear my voice, Jesus said, and those who recognize that voice aren't left wandering in a fog of confusion. They are guided even when the path is dimly lit, like a traveler on a back road in Montana with nothing but high beams and a sense of direction. The night isn't just a time for waiting. In the grand narrative of Scripture, it's often the exact coordinates of transformation. Think about Gideon. He was called in the middle of the night when he felt like the least brave man in the county. Or Samuel, awakened in the dead of night by a voice he didn't expect. Or Ruth, stepping onto a quiet threshing floor under the cover of darkness, where a covenant was formed that would eventually lead to the King of Kings. On the surface, these moments didn't look like blockbuster movie scenes. They looked like quiet, ordinary nights. But they held eternal weight, and so does yours. Tonight, fam, whatever it looks like in your life, whether you're sitting in a parked car in Philadelphia or staring at the ceiling in a farmhouse in Iowa, it isn't empty. It isn't a void. It is a sacred pause. It is the space God uses to reset your heart, realign your vision, and refine your character for the weight of the blessing that's coming. When clarity hasn't arrived and your future looks like a blurred photo, that doesn't mean you've lost your way. It means you're being led by something much deeper than your five senses. You're being led by faith. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Every instruction you're receiving in this season of stillness isn't because the darkness is winning or because your enemies are catching up. They are here because the light is approaching at high speed, and when it arrives, the ones who are listening, the ones who are willing to wait, to trust, and to prepare will be the only ones ready to move when that door finally swings open. So, do not mistake stillness for absence. Do not confuse uncertainty with abandonment. What feels hidden right now is actually heaven's way of drawing you closer to what truly matters. It's a filtration process. God is filtering out the noise of the world so you can hear the frequency of your destiny. This is your moment not to panic, but to posture your heart, because we often misunderstand what preparation really means. We think it's a burden or a delay. We think God is holding out on us. But heaven sees it differently. In the hands of the Most High, preparation isn't pressure. It is proof of purpose. Think about a custom-built home in the hills of Malibu. The foundation takes longer than the walls because it has to support something massive. God does not invest his time in what he plans to discard. He does not shape what he does not intend to use in a powerful way. When he begins to refine your habits, when he starts stirring your convictions and drawing you into deeper places of obedience, it is not to overwhelm your schedule, it is to equip your soul. There is something ahead of you, a breakthrough, a position, a responsibility that your current self simply cannot carry without a total transformation. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. God finishes what he starts. If he's preparing you, he isn't leaving you behind in the dust. He's inviting you to step to the front of the line. Throughout history, there is this consistent rhythm preparation before purpose. It is never instant, and it rarely makes sense while you're in the middle of it, but it is always dripping with meaning. Consider Moses. Before he ever stared down Pharaoh, he spent 40 years in the wilderness. Those years looked like obscurity. They looked like he had wasted his life. But they were actually the war room where the heart of a deliverer was forged. Or think of Hannah, waiting in tears before Samuel was ever born. Her pain wasn't pointless. It positioned her to mother a prophet who would change the course of a nation. This is how the king works, always intentional, never rushed, and always 10 steps ahead of the moment. So if you've felt that stirring lately, that unnameable restlessness that won't let you settle, don't dismiss it as emotional noise. It isn't stress. It isn't just a mood. It is spiritual sensitivity awakening inside you. You've noticed yourself thinking with a sharper edge, seeing through the nonsense of the world, and questioning things you used to accept as normal. That isn't a glitch. It's the Spirit fine-tuning your awareness. Heaven is drawing near, not with chaos, but with a clarity that only the quiet can hear. There's a reason you feel like you're on the edge of something massive. That isn't fear. Chosen one, that is alignment. It's the invitation to see with new eyes and walk with a renewed discernment. Because being led by the Spirit doesn't always start with a list of answers. Sometimes it begins with a nudge, a holy unrest, a shift deep in your gut before anything changes in your environment. And as we lean into this, we have to realize that this preparation is becoming a language of trust over striving. You're being ready to carry a weight of glory that would crush anyone else. But you might be wondering, if this preparation is so important, why does it feel so much like waiting? Why does the silence feel like a wall instead of a door? Well, we're about to pull back the curtain on the season of the silent wait and uncover why the kingdom prize is always hidden in the place where the world tells you to give up. Listen, chosen one, we have to talk about the part of this journey that nobody likes to put on a billboard. We have to talk about the waiting room in our fast-paced, high-speed, everything-on-demand American culture. We have been conditioned to see waiting as a failure. We think if we aren't hitting a new milestone every 6 months, we're stagnant. If the prayer isn't answered by the time we finish our morning coffee, we think God has forgotten our address. But I need you to hear me clearly in the kingdom of God. Waiting is never passive. It is the most active thing you will ever do. Think about a massive skyscraper in downtown Chicago or New York City. For months, sometimes years, all the neighbors see is a giant hole in the ground. There are no walls, no glass, no luxury suites, just dirt, heavy machinery, and workers digging deep into the bedrock. To the casual observer, it looks like a mess. It looks like a delay. But if you don't go 200 feet down into the earth, you can't go 100 stories up into the clouds. That hole is the most critical part of the build. That is your waiting season. It is the ground where your roots are driven deep into the character of God, even when nothing is growing above the surface yet. Scripture tells us in Isaiah 40:31 that they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. We love the part about mounting up with wings like eagles, but we ignore the prerequisite. The strength isn't poured into you the moment you ask for it. The strength is forged in the waiting. While the world is screaming at you to hustle, pivot, and make it happen, the Spirit is whispering, hold still. Stillness isn't stagnation, it's alignment. It's the process of your heart becoming so quiet that you can finally hear the frequency of the one who is leading you. In this season, your faith is shedding its emotions. Let's be honest, when things are going great, faith is easy. It feels like a high. But when you're sitting in a quiet house in the suburbs of Dallas, and the phone hasn't rung in weeks, and the bank account is hovering near zero, and the vision God gave you feels like a distant dream, that's where trust stops being a feeling and starts being a foundation. You are learning to move because He said so, not because you feel like it. Think about the Hall of Fame of faith. These weren't people who got instant results. Abraham was 75 when he got the promise, and he was a century old when he held it. He spent decades in a tent, wandering the dusty plains, waiting for a child while his own body felt like a dead end. That delay wasn't God being slow. It was God deepening Abraham's capacity to be the father of nations. Or look at David. He was just a teenager when the prophet Samuel poured oil over his head in a small house in Bethlehem and called him king. But David didn't walk into a palace the next day. He walked back to the sheep. Then he walked into a cave. He spent years running for his life in the wilderness, sleeping on cold rocks, and hiding from a king who wanted him dead. That wilderness wasn't a mistake. It was the training ground. God wasn't preparing a king for power. He was preparing a leader who knew how to trust God in the dark so he wouldn't lose his mind in the light. Even the greatest of all, Jesus himself, spent 30 years living a hidden life in Nazareth before he ever spent 3 years in public ministry. Think about that. The Son of God spent 90% of his life in the waiting room of a carpenter's shop. He wasn't rushed. He was revealed in the fullness of time. You see, waiting is the womb of timing. It's where the invisible workings of God take place. This is why this season feels so delicate and, quite frankly, so irritating. It reveals what really governs your heart. It's the truth serum of the soul. Do you start panicking when your timeline doesn't match God's? Do you start looking for Ishmael, a human-made solution, because you're tired of waiting for Isaac? Waiting pulls your false expectations into the light. It peels back the assumption that God is a vending machine who has to respond just because you're tired of the struggle. Heaven moves by design, not by your demands. God doesn't operate on your emotional urgency. He operates on his eternal wisdom. Psalm 37:7 says, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him." Waiting doesn't mean you stop living. It means you show up to your job in that office building in Atlanta. You take care of your kids, you pay your bills, and you keep your heart steady. You aren't striving. You aren't chasing signs. You are cultivating trust. And something supernatural happens during this silent wait. Your desires start to shift. Slowly, quietly. The things you thought you absolutely needed to be happy start to lose their grip on you. The things that felt urgent a year ago don't even make your top 10 list today. New priorities are rising. God isn't denying your past hopes. He's preparing you for something more aligned with his heart. This is where your preparation becomes your protection. It ensures that when the door finally swings open, and believe me, it will, you won't be caught off guard. You'll be grounded. You'll be unshakable. You won't be a one-hit wonder who crashes under the weight of success. But hey, if you're sitting in there thinking nothing is happening, you are believing a lie. You are in the exact place God needs you to be. You aren't behind. You aren't forgotten. You are planted. And a seed that is planted looks just like a seed that is buried. But the outcome is entirely different. One is dead. The other is about to explode into life. But there's a secret to this transition that most people miss. God doesn't just want to change your location. He's obsessed with changing your posture. Because if you carry a slave mindset into a king's palace, you'll turn the palace into a prison. We have to understand how the spirit realigns itself before the breakthrough can manifest. Because the truth is, God is preparing your heart long before he ever shifts your situation. And if you're wondering why the pressure has been dialed up lately, it's because you're closer to the shift than you've ever been. Let's look at the 7 anchors that the enemy uses to try and keep you chained to your old season. And more importantly, how to break them before the clock strikes midnight. Listen, we need to get real about something. This journey isn't about some quick fix or a surface level upgrade to your lifestyle. We aren't talking about a new coat of paint on a crumbling house. We are talking about a sacred gut-level transformation. And in this high-voltage space, one truth rises above the noise. God is obsessed with preparing your heart long before he ever thinks about shifting your situation. I know you've been praying for the circumstances to change. You've been asking for the boss to get fired, for the bank account to grow, or for the door to open in that skyscraper in downtown Seattle. But the Spirit is doing a deep tissue work far beneath what your physical eyes can see. What? Because a changed situation without a changed soul is a disaster waiting to happen. God isn't just trying to fix what's broken around you. He is aiming to reposition you a heart, mind, and spirit so you can actually carry the weight of what he's about to release. Position matters more than we ever realize in the American dream, because your position determines your perspective. Imagine 2 people caught in the same massive blizzard in the Colorado Rockies. One is terrified, lost, and freezing. The other is inside a cabin, watching the snow fall with a sense of awe. Same storm, 2 different realities. Why? Because of where they are positioned. When you are positioned in fear, even a golden opportunity looks like a trap. But when you are positioned in radical trust, even a 10.0 magnitude difficulty becomes a training ground. Colossians 3:2 tells us to set your minds on things above. When your posture is aligned with the frequency of heaven, your entire perspective starts to pivot. Peace enters the room. Your clarity sharpens until it's like a 4K resolution. Movement finally becomes possible because you've stopped looking at the giants and started looking at the king. This isn't about striving or manifesting your way to the top. It's about a quiet, intentional return to the person you were actually created to be. In the stillness of this night, God is realigning the neural pathways of your thoughts. He's going into the basements of your mind where fear crept in during that bankruptcy, or where anxiety took root after that betrayal. He's softening the heart that grew guarded and cold while you were waiting for a prayer that felt ignored. This realignment isn't just about feeling better. Chosen one, it's about becoming more responsive. If your heart stays hardened by past pain, you will subconsciously resist the very breakthrough you've been crying out for. And then there's the alignment of the spirit. That's where your discernment lives. When your spirit is positioned to respond without a second of hesitation, that is when divine instruction becomes explosive movement. Think about the Red Sea. It didn't part because the Israelites had a boardroom meeting and analyzed the logistics of the tide. It didn't part because they panicked. It parted when they stepped forward. The command from heaven didn't come with a 20-page PDF explaining the physics of water. It came with a simple direction. Tell the Israelites to move on. Tonight, too, that same ancient pattern is repeating in your life. God isn't just preparing you to endure that cramped apartment or that dead-end cubicle. He is preparing you to step forward, steady, aligned, and ready. And that work begins in the mind. Most people in this country underestimate the power of their own thoughts, treating the mind like a playground. But the mind is a battlefield. It is the front line of your destiny. Every delay and every choice to obey or resist. Every missed moment starts right there between your ears. Battles aren't lost in public. They are lost quietly in the shadows of the mind, where lies go unchecked and old fears go unchallenged. God is renewing your entire mental framework. He's upgrading your software so that when he builds the new you won't collapse under the pressure of the growth. Romans 12:2 warns us, do not conform to the pattern of this world. In America, the pattern is to worry, to compete, and to burn out. But the Spirit is calling for a transformation through the renewing of your mind. You cannot step into a new season carrying an old, dusty mindset. An old mindset will see a new door as a risk and a divine instruction as an interruption to your schedule. A renewal rewires that instinct. It lets you recognize the movement the second it begins and say yes, even when the full picture is still a blur. This is why this alignment is the most critical thing you will do this year. Because when the inner life is ready, you will not miss what heaven is doing. You won't be like the people who were so busy scrolling that they missed the angel standing in the room. You'll be the one who seizes the cloud the size of a man's hand and knows it's time to prepare for a downpour. If you've walked with this message until now, I know you sense it. Tonight is not ordinary. This isn't just another video in your feed. This is a sacred in-between. It's the space between the person you were and the person you are becoming. And in this space, something deeper than your logical understanding is being asked of you. Heaven is asking for your trust, your sensitivity, and your alignment. Right now, the Spirit of God is doing what only He can do. He is burning away the fog that has clouded your clarity. He is unhooking the weights that have made your steps feel like you're walking through wet cement. He is sharpening your focus. And listen to me, this fire you feel isn't here to harm you. It's not the fire of destruction, it's the fire of refinement. When gold is placed in the flame, it's not because the gold is bad, it's because the gold is valuable. The impurities rise to the surface because the heat is forcing them out to reveal the true nature of the metal. The unease you've been feeling lately, the urgency, the sudden pressure to let go of people and habits that don't fit anymore, those aren't signs of failure. Those are signs that something holy is being made visible in you. You aren't being rejected by the world. You are being refined for the kingdom. Zechariah 13:9 says, I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. That is exactly what this night carries. It's not silence. It's a response. It's not abandonment. It's a terrifying nearness. Some people came into this night expecting a loud noise, a dramatic lightning bolt, or an obvious sign, but instead, heaven brought a heavy stillness. And stillness, though the world overlooks it, is the clearest sign that God is standing right next to you. Stillness isn't the absence of activity. It is the presence of pure intentionality. It's where the noise of comparison and the pressure to perform are stripped away until only the truth remains. Elijah found this out in a cave. He looked for God in the wind, the earthquake, and the fire. But the voice of the Creator came in a gentle whisper. Stillness teaches you that God doesn't need to shout to be heard. He speaks clearest when your soul becomes quiet enough to listen. But as the stillness settles in, there's a final hurdle we have to clear. There is a specific trap that stops more chosen ones than anything else. It's the belief that you have to understand the how before you offer your yes. But faith doesn't work on a need-to-know basis. Faith moves before clarity arrives. And if you're wondering why the instructions have been so vague lately, it's because the miracle isn't in the plan, it's in the step. We're about to move into the final activation, the moment where we seal this alignment and prepare to walk into the morning as a completely different person. But before we pray, you need to understand why your yes tonight, even if it's offered with trembling hands, is the most powerful weapon you possess against the darkness. Chosen one, if you've stayed with me until this moment, it's because your spirit has already recognized the truth. Tonight is not ordinary. This is not just a passing hour in the dark, but a sacred threshold between the you that was and the you that is about to be birthed. In this space, something deeper than intellectual understanding is being asked of you. It is a demand for radical trust, a heightened sensitivity, and a final total alignment. Right now, the Spirit of God is doing what only He can do, burning away the thick fog that has clouded your clarity, unhooking the invisible weights that have made every step feel like a grind, and sharpening your focus until it's like a laser. This fire you've been feeling lately, it isn't here to harm you. It's not the fire of destruction. It's the fire of the forge. In the ancient texts, fire was never about punishment. It was about purification. When a master jeweler in a city like New York or a smith in the heart of Texas places gold in the flame, he isn't trying to destroy the metal, he's trying to reveal its true nature. The impurities rise to the surface because the gold is too valuable to be left contaminated. And the same is true for you. The unease, the urgency, that sudden crushing pressure to let go of what no longer fits your life, those are not signs of failure. They are signs that something holy is being made visible. You are being refined, not rejected. Zechariah 13:9 says, I will bring them through the fire. I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. That is exactly what this night carries. It's not silence. It's a response. It's not abandonment. It's the most intimate nearness you've ever known. Some of you came into this night expecting a roar, an obvious breakthrough, or a dramatic lightning bolt across the American sky. But instead, heaven brought you stillness. And stillness, though often ignored in our culture of noise, is the clearest sign that God is standing in the room. Stillness isn't the absence of activity, it is the presence of absolute intentionality. It's where the noise of comparison, the pressure to perform, and the hustle of the world are stripped away so that what is eternal can finally rise. Think back to the stories of the prophets. Elijah didn't find God in the wind, or the earthquake, or the fire. The voice came in a gentle whisper. Stillness teaches you that God doesn't need to shout to be heard. He speaks clearest when your soul becomes quiet enough to listen. But we have to face a hard truth. One of the greatest delays to your movement is the belief that obedience must wait for full understanding. It's a common trap in the American mind. We want to see the whole 10-year plan, the full blueprint, the guaranteed ROI before we take the first step. But faith doesn't work on a need-to-know basis. Faith doesn't require all the details. It only requires trust in the one who holds them. When Jesus told the 10 lepers to go show themselves to the priests, they were still sick. Nothing had changed yet, but the word says as they went, they were cleansed. The healing didn't happen before the step. It happened in the step. That is how your trust must work. It moves before the clarity arrives. God's pattern is to give direction, not explanation. Those who move with Him are the ones who get to see the miracle unfold in motion. You may feel tired tonight. Not just, I need an extra cup of coffee tired, but spiritually worn. You've been stretched thin by the weight of responsibilities, by the silence of your prayers, and by the hopes that seem to be on life support. You've been faithful in the small things in a town where nobody noticed. You've stayed at your post when it would have been 10 times easier to quit. You've prayed without answers, waited without a timeline, and served without a single thank you from the crowd. I need you to know that heaven has seen it all. Isaiah 49:16 says, "See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. You have not been forgotten. Your sacrifices haven't faded into the void. The long nights, the inner battles, the choices to stay aligned when everyone else was compromising, none of those were wasted. They were seeds. And though the ground has looked quiet, the soil has never been empty. Something has been growing beneath the surface where your physical eyes couldn't reach. Tonight is not just the end of a long season. It is a holy threshold. Ecclesiastes 8:5 says, "The wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. There is a time for rest, yes. There is a time for waiting. But there is also a time for movement." And when God says, "Be prepared for tonight," He isn't speaking to your anxiety. He is speaking to your readiness. He doesn't call the most equipped. He equips the ones He calls. He doesn't require perfection. He supplies grace. What He is looking for tonight is availability. He's looking for a heart willing to say yes before all the answers are on the table. And I'm telling you, things are going to shift after this. Some of those thoughts that have held you captive in a mental prison will begin to loosen their grip. Some of the fears that used to paralyze you will lose their power. Invisible barriers that have blocked your path for years are breaking right now, not always with a loud, dramatic noise, but with the unmistakable clarity that things are no longer the same. The cycle has ended. What once felt heavy no longer belongs to you. This isn't just an emotion or a good vibe. It is divine timing. When the timing of heaven meets a heart in the posture of obedience, things move. You weren't chosen because you're fearless. You were chosen because in your weakness, you still had the courage to say yes. And that yes, offered in trembling trust, is more powerful than any weapon the enemy can forge. 2 Chronicles 16:9 says, "The eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him." That is what He is doing for you right now, strengthening you. Not because you've proven yourself to the world, but because you've offered yourself to the King. So, do not lift your fear tonight. Lift your faith. Do not rehearse your doubts. Return to the promise. Let your heart settle into the deep knowing that something sacred is shifting not just around you, but within you. And when the light of the American morning breaks, you may not have every answer on your GPS, but you will know this. Something changed. Not because the situation shifted overnight, but because you did. You will look back and realize this wasn't just another video you stumbled upon. This was a turning point. Quiet, holy, eternal. If everything up to this moment has been preparation, then everything that comes next is stewardship. When God says be prepared, He isn't asking for a spectacle. He's asking for a daily, small, consistent alignment. The sacred always starts in the unseen. The evidence of this night won't be found in what you feel right now. It will be found in how you choose to live tomorrow morning. It starts with tending your inner space. It starts with silence over striving. In a few moments, we are going to enter into a final prayer together. This isn't a performance, it's a posture. This is where we seal the work that has been done in your spirit tonight. This is where we tell heaven that we are ready to build, ready to carry, and ready to stand. You've sensed the stirring. You've felt the alignment. Now it's time to confirm it. As we move toward this final act of surrender, prepare your heart. We are about to speak directly to the Father, to the one who crafted this very moment for you. We are going to lock this decision into the records of eternity, ensuring that when the door finally swings open, you won't just walk through it, you will own the territory on the other side. Stay with me, because we are about to step onto holy ground. Chosen one, as the stillness of this sacred encounter begins to fold back into the rhythm of your daily life. Remember this. Not every moment touched by God announces itself with a roar. Sometimes heaven shifts something within you so quietly that the surface of your life remains unchanged for a while. The same commute to your office in Houston still awaits. The same routine in your kitchen continues. But you are not the same. This night was your war room. The foundations have been reinforced, and the inner alignment is complete. Do not be discouraged if the fruit doesn't appear by tomorrow morning. Roots grow in the dark, and God is building something in you that won't collapse when the winds of life return. You are not behind, you are not late, and you are certainly not alone. You have been prepared from the inside out, and when the set time comes, you will walk into your breakthrough with a peace that surpasses all understanding. Go forth today, not as someone waiting for a sign, but as someone who is the sign. The shift has happened. Believe it, walk in it, and own it. The meaning of the story. This journey teaches us that preparation is proof of purpose. The restlessness, the waiting, and the silence we experience aren't signs of God's absence, but evidence of his intense involvement. He prepares the heart before he moves the hand. Lessons for the audience. Stillness is strategy. Silence isn't a void, it's a filtration system where God removes the world's noise so you can hear his frequency. Waiting is a womb strength, and character aren't given. They are forged during the seasons of delay. Obedience over understanding. Faith requires taking the first step before the second step is even visible. Refinement isn't rejection. The pressure you feel is the master jeweler removing impurities so your true value can shine. If this message resonated with your spirit and you feel the shift happening within you, we want to hear from you. Comment 999 if you love this video and you're ready to step into your new season with confidence. Comment 0 if you feel we could improve. Tell us how we can make these messages even more impactful for your journey. Leave a comment below to share your perspective or a prayer request. We are a community of chosen ones, and we walk this path together. And please, subscribe to the channel. Your support gives me the motivation to keep crafting these transmissions for you. Stay rooted, stay watchful, and walk in peace.